Right, so hi guys, this is my new channel, well, new part of my channel anyway, and today I'm going to call it the Art of Fine Dining on a Student Budget. I know it sounds really funny, but it's kind of what it is. So today I'm going to be making sausage rolls. These are actually really nice, and you can actually, like with the sausage meat that I just use really cheap sausages. I only use 2 of them. You can also use nicer sausage meat, but then again, you want to keep the price down. So first off, you need 2 sausages. 2 rashers of streaky bacon, smoked, cut into as small pieces as you can, 4 cloves of garlic, juice of 1 lemon, an apple, a red onion chopped as fine as possible, and basil, rosemary, parsley, Italian herbs, sage and thyme. I know that sounds like a lot of herbs, but because the meat you're using is so cheap, you don't really have very much flavour, so you want to recreate some sort of nice flavourings with it. You'll also need salt and pepper. Right, but also for the pastry, you need 5 ounces of plain flour, 3 ounces of lard, and 2 ounces of butter. The reason I use more lard than butter is because most pastries you don't need lard than butter, but lard's a lot cheaper than butter. I think this butter is about £1.50. The lard is about 30p, so you want to use as much lard as possible. So to start off with, you make your pastry. Your butter and your lard has to be kept in the freezer because I always do this. I know it sounds really strange, but you'll understand why later. So you set the scales to 0, and you get your lard block, which is frozen solid, and then you grate with a grater your lard. So you grate 3 ounces of lard straight into your flour. Okay. And it will look really strange. It'll look a bit like snow, basically. But you want to keep it as cold as possible. You want to do this as quickly as possible as well. 2 ounces. Time works like this, but it gets there in the end. Hard work actually, grating lard, because that's, it's like grating ice. It's the same sort of thing. But once you've done that, if I'd been a coffee shop, I would have had this already weighed out, but I decided not to weigh the lard out. So right, there's 3 ounces of lard into your flour. Get your knife. I don't know if you can see my bowl. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in, so I'm not even touching this with my hands at all yet. I'm chopping it in, literally just to break it up so it mixes with the flour, okay? So literally just chopping in until it becomes like a breadcrumb mixture. Keep chopping it in, making sure that you don't have too many lumps. And then you do the same with your butter, but only 2 ounces, not 3 ounces. Reset the scales. Frozen butter. Do the same again. Now, butter generally doesn't freeze as easily as lard. I'm not quite sure why, but you get more like a cheese effect with butter when it's frozen. It looks a bit like cheese. Actually, the butter doesn't necessarily need to be frozen, but it needs to be at least refrigerated for at least 30 minutes. As you can see, it looks like a load of cheese on top of your flour. So you also chop that in with a knife. Being careful not to touch butter with your hands yet, because your hands will melt the butter. So what you want to do is with the knife and chop it in. Chop it in. Now, with this pastry, it doesn't actually matter if you get a few lumps of butter. Don't try and squash them out like breadcrumbs. Make sure you just chop them as small as possible, because that will give the pastry its flakiness. So it doesn't actually matter, because puff pastry, it's always pockets of butter. That's the difference between puff pastry and short crust. And puff pastry's got a lot more butter in it. Now you could do just normal short crust pastry if you guys know how to do that. It's very, very similar. It's about 50%. This is just over 50%. So like half butter, half lard, and then half of the flour. So basically, say it's 5 ounces of flour, it would be 2.5 ounces of butter, 2.5 ounces of lard, which would be short crust. But I find a flaky pastry is generally much better for this. Right, then you get some water. You only need about 50 ml. And there we go, that's exactly 50 ml. But I'm only going to put half in to begin with. Get a wooden spoon. Again, trying not to touch too much of this. Now you can add salt and pepper or a bit of mustard in the pastry if you feel like, but I generally find that kind of overpowers the rest of the recipe. So I just generally leave the pastry pretty basic, because you get a lot of the taste from all the herbs, because of course you're using 6 herbs. So there's 50 ml. Last little bit. Now it's a little bit dry, but you keep working it, it won't be. And then now when you sort of get it's beginning to sort of stick, the pastry it's sort of crummy, but it's just beginning to stick. Now is when you use your hands. You just gently bring it all together into a ball. You'll think, oh, I need more water, but you won't, because of course you've got the lard and the butter, which when you put your hands in, it will all condense together. Then you just knead that as quickly as possible. And there we go. It's all come together, nice little ball. Right? Cover this with cellophane or a tea towel, and stick it in the fridge for at least 10 minutes, but preferably 30 minutes. So I'm going to cover that with a tea towel. I'm going to put that in the fridge. There we go, tea towel, fridge. Right. That chills because of course your buttering stuff's gone cold and it starts warming up when you touch it. So now, got a mixing bowl. Actually, say I'm washing up, I'm going to use it just to scrape out all of this. Scrape out this mixing bowl. It's fairly clean, it's got a little bit of flour in it, but that doesn't matter at the moment. You want to get your onions, which need to be separate for the minute. Got a saucepan over there, which has got a little bit of oil in it, just heating it up. Just put the heat up on there. And you want to get your garlic. Now you can finely chop it or use a garlic crusher. Garlic crushers are kind of expensive, so if you're cutting down on costs, don't you just chop it really finely. Put that into the onion. Doesn't have to be perfect because the garlic won't be too overpowering anyway with all the other flavours. So 4 cloves of garlic, fairly large cloves of garlic is what I'd say. Crush that all into the onion. Okay. Now the onion, we'll put that into the saucepan over here. I don't know if you can see. There's a saucepan there on the heat. Straight in. It will start to crackle and whatnot. You want to cook that roughly for about 2 or 3 minutes, just while the onion starts to brown. So you don't want to cook in and properly yet. Put it up on a high heat. It will sizzle and cook for about 2 or 3 minutes, just to sort of soften the onions and bring them to brown. And the reason I want to cook it yet is because you've actually got to put other raw ingredients in, like the bacon. But of course the bacon takes a little bit longer. The onion takes a little bit longer to cook than the bacon. So just put that there. Get some salt and pepper. Add some pepper into the onion. Just a pinch of salt as well, a bit more flavour. And grab your spices. So again, all 6 spices. Now the thing with spices is that don't buy them from supermarkets. Buy them online because they're only 99p generally. And you want about a teaspoon of sage. You should go straight in. About 2 teaspoons of thyme. Thyme is the main factor in this dish. 2 teaspoons of thyme. A teaspoon of rosemary. And 2 teaspoons of basil. really, really herby because you want to get lots of flavours. Now, you don't actually have to use Italian herbs. I do. It's got a little bit of oregano in it, but you don't actually. You can just use just Italian herbs because it's basically the same stuff. But I've got half a teaspoon of that in as well, and then about half a teaspoon again of parsley. So just bring a bit more colour to it. Start turning that in the oil. So there's only about a tablespoon of oil in the pan. You don't really need very much because of course the sausages have a lot of stuff in them anyway. So right now I'm going to turn my oven on to 200 degrees just to get, so it'll start warming up now, okay? So that onion's now just beginning to brown. I'm going to add my bacon lardons. Fry those a few minutes just while they start to cook. Now, while that's frying over there, I'm going to grab my apple. It's a medium-sized eating apple, my grater, and I'm going to grate the apple, okay? With the skin as well. I literally just grate the apple. Now, a lot of recipes of sausage rolls, like sausage rolls with apple, they say put the apple in raw, but I don't, because the amount of water that comes out of your cheap sausages is enough for the condensing of the mixture, and of course so you just want the grated apple, you just need that for a minute. Go back to the frying pan and put the grated apple in there. What it does, and then it just cooks off a lot of the water, so you don't get too much juice coming out of sausage rolls when you're cooking them. Okay? So let's just fry the whole lot together. Doesn't need to be fried low, just more to just get a lot of the moisture out, so then when you mix it with the sausage meat, your mixture is more pure, so then you don't have any water coming out and ruining your pastry. So it's literally quite nice. So it doesn't matter if it's not cooked. And now I'm turning my hob off now, and literally just letting that apple steam in with the herbs and the onions and the bacon. And then condense down. Also, what I'm going to do, just to give the sausages a little more tang, is add half a lemon. It's the juice in half a lemon, just to give it a bit more zang. And there we go. As you can see, it's been cooked off quite nicely. Lots of steam coming out. Bacon's not burnt, it's just ever so slightly cooked, so is the onion. And it's just getting rid of that steam. Right. Now, I'm going to let that sit for a minute or two, just until it's cool enough to handle, because of course you're going to be handling it now. So that's fine. Put that in my mixing bowl to speed up the cooling down process. And leave that to sit. Just to leave that in there. The sausages, what you can do now is just put the sausages on the top, just so then you know they're in there. Right. So then you've got your sausages and you've got your apple and herb and onions. So, right now, go back to the fridge and grab our pastry. Because it's been about 10 minutes, just under, but mine's fine because I've kept mine quite cold. And of course I'm doing this in real time. There's your pastry ball, it's nice and chilled. Then we have plain flour just to dust your sides. And you probably want to roll this into, what do you say, 2 sausages, 5 ounces of flour. Probably want to roll it about 16 inches long, 16 inches by maybe 16 by 5 inches probably. So just literally just roll it as quickly as you can. The quicker you work, you will the better the pastry. It's always the case. And it's a very, very soft pastry, so you've got to be very, very careful when rolling it out because it can break quite easily. And there's 16 inches. What mixture have I got? So we'll do 16 inches by 8 inches, I'd say, actually. And you'll get 2 nice thin oblongs of pastry. Just roll that out slightly. Remember to turn it because otherwise you'll stick slightly to the sideboard and you don't want that. There we go. Okay, you don't have to be perfect at rolling, as long as it's that sort of shape, it doesn't really matter, because of course you're going to be rolling this into a little ball, into sausage rolls anyway. So there we go, 16 by 6, there we go. It's not a perfect square, rectangle, but it's about that. Now, some people would say you want to trim this, but what's the point in wasting that pastry? So all I'm going to do, a nice sharp knife, and cut straight down the middle. Literally straight down the middle, I don't know if you can see that. Straight down the middle of there, okay? Now I've got a little bit of pastry that hasn't quite rolled in the centre, so I'm just going to roll it out slightly more. Put one piece to the side. Now, this, I've got asbestos hands, so this is pretty much ready for me to touch. Well, it's actually a little bit hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just chop my sausages up in it, which will cool down the mixture as well, because the sausages aren't hot. So that'll cool it down. What you can do is just get your hands and squish it, but just make sure you don't burn yourself. Literally you just want to like puree the sausages back into sausage meat and then mix them with all that onion and apple, all those herbs. It really does sort of smell amazing right now. So right, that's a bit hot, but I've got asbestos fingers, so literally just grab the whole load and squish it through your hand into a puree basically. And literally go. Now realistically, for a better result, you want this mixture to be cold as possible. So you can, if you can leave it on the sideboard for half an hour or stick it in the fridge if you don't mind. You shouldn't put things in the fridge that are hot, but I generally find it doesn't really do too much harm. So there is a nice sort of mixture. It looks a bit like, can do a little bit like vomit, but it doesn't really matter. Of course, that's going in your inside. So, got your pastry. Put the thing down. Got your pastry there, and what you're going to do is just run the mixture in about by a centimetre about height, all the way along one side. Okay. So literally just going to put that there. Don't have to be perfect. Don't have to be perfect across. And just keep going across all the way through on both pieces of pastry. There's one done. Try and keep it as constant as possible, because otherwise your sausage rolls will all be different sizes. So there we go, just about a centimetre from the edge on the cut side, okay? So there we go, just spread the mixture out a little bit more. And there we go. And of course, every time you're doing this, you're cooling the mixture down anyway because the air is getting to it. So you want it as even as possible along the two sausage roll edges. And there's a little demonstration. You can see that. Then what we're going to do is literally just roll it. Roll the pastry from the inside out. So from the cut edge, literally just pick the pastry up and wrap it around. Wrap it around those pieces of sausage meat. It's not difficult. It's just try and do it all in one go though, because otherwise your sausage rolls don't look brilliant. And there we go. Roll it over. It's rolled over. There we go. What you can do now is just roll it over again, so then the seam is on the base. Literally roll it over again, so the seam is on the base. And there we go. And there we go. You've got a sausage roll, and there's a long tube. So we do that with the other one. Roll it from the inside out, over. Just tucking it under slightly, and then rest it on the seam, and then there we go, nice and neat. There we go. Right, so you now got two little tubes full of sausage meat, and there they are. So what we're going to do, trim the ends off, chuck those, don't need those, trim both ends off, and voila. So you've got two sausage meats. Now you want to get your baking tray, and you want to cut these at intervals of about an inch. So about an inch, 1, 2, maybe an inch and a half, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and slide them onto the baking tray. You don't need to grease them, don't need to grease the baking tray because there's so much butter in the pastry. There we go. Your oven should be pretty much up to temperature by now. Yep, mine's up. There we go. So So you're going to get about 15 to 16 sausage rolls, depending on how large you cut them, I suppose. There we go, all up to one, boom, boom, boom. Okay, these aren't going to all fit on my baking tray. It's annoying. I have to do it a little bit. Oh no, I have to squish them over. The thing is, these aren't going to puff up or anything, so you don't have to worry about them expanding too much, because they only just rise up rather than out, so they can be quite close together. And then you can give them an egg wash if you want, which is just a little bit beaten up egg with pastry, but you don't have to. And then you just bake those for 10 to 15 minutes, depending on your oven, of course. If you've got a student oven like me, it's going to be more like 20 minutes because they're not very good at convection. But yeah, 200 degrees, 10 to 15 minutes, or if it's a shit oven like mine, put them straight in like that. You can egg wash them if you want to. You don't have to. It doesn't really do much for these because of the amount of butter in the pastry. So they go straight in. And that's it. It's fairly simple. I'll show you. Oh, my eyebrow came off. So yeah. Yeah, so it's a really simple recipe. To recap what the recipe was, it was 5 ounces of plain flour. You can use self-raising, it's not going to make much difference with these anyway. 3 ounces of lard, 2 ounces of butter, which has to be frozen and grated into the flour and then cut in with a knife without touching it too much with your hands. About 50 ml of water, and you can pour that in after you've sort of sliced it so it looks a bit like gooey breadcrumbs. And then stir that in. Once it's like trying to stick together, just squeeze it with your hands into a ball, refrigerate for about 10 minutes, and basically while you're cooking your onions and your bacon, all you need is, and then of course you do your onion and bacon and whatnot, which is 1 medium red onion, a medium cooking apple, 4 cloves of garlic, 2 rashers of streaky bacon cut up really finely, thyme, rosemary, basil, Italian herbs you want, a bit of parsley, and that's it really. A bit of salt and pepper. You can always put a few extra things in if you don't feel it's strong enough, like a bit of mustard or something. But yeah, but generally these are great for if you come back on a night out. They'll all be gone. Like girls have gone out of my flat tonight, they'll all be gone by the end of this evening. And that's about it. So I'll turn the webcam off and I'll get them out and show you what they look like when they've come out. Right, so hi guys, so I cooked them, they've been in for 20 minutes, actually it was the entire length of the video because I watched the video back, so I'm really sorry about the clanging noise, I didn't realise that was actually happening on my webcam, so next time I do a video I'll try and avoid that. Sorry, my voice also, I just realised how bad I sound. It's because I've got a little bit of a cold, so I'm a little bit sort of stuffed up, so my breathing sounded really strange, but it's not normally like that. But anyway, here are the sausage rolls. And basically, well, I've already eaten 3, so I got 16 out of this. No, 17. Yeah, 17. Yeah, pastry is really nice. It's actually still really hot. Literally, just melts in your mouth, like literally. I'll get you a piece. Show you this one. Like literally, it's flaky. It's just so flaky. Like I'm just scratching it, and all the pastry just falls off. So that's really hot, but they're amazing. They're literally the best thing. I normally try to only make them at Christmas because like that whole batch I will eat now. I'll eat the whole lot. I did say to the girls I'd save them some, but I doubt I will. So yeah. So sorry about the clanging noise and whatnot. You know, as I make more videos, I'll try and make things a little bit more clearer. If you've got any queries or any questions. Or if there's anything that you want me to make, like my version, like the student version of a meal or something, I'll give it a go. Yeah, so rate, comment, subscribe. Please be nice about the noise of the first video. So I'll talk to you guys soon, and I'll probably make something else soon as well.